Most people think rich people became wealthy because they worked harder. But that is almost never the real reason. The real difference is rich people learn how the system works. And once you understand the system, money starts moving differently around you. Because the average person spends their entire life chasing money, while rich people spend their lives building things that attract money automatically. That is why one person works for 40 years and stays stuck, while another builds wealth that continues growing even while they sleep. And the scary part is, most people never notice the game they are trapped inside. From childhood, people are trained to become consumers. Study, get a job, spend your paycheck, repeat. And the system survives because most people never question it. But rich people do. They constantly ask, where is money actually flowing? Who controls attention? Who owns the system behind the product? Because ownership changes everything. A normal person buys shoes. A rich person buys stock in the company selling the shoes. A normal person watches content. A rich person builds an audience. A normal person trades time for money. A rich person builds systems that make money without their time. That is the real shift. And once you see it, you can never unsee it again. Because the modern world is built on attention. The companies dominating the planet today are not always the companies producing the most physical products. They are the companies controlling human focus. TikTok controls attention. YouTube controls attention. Instagram controls attention. And attention is one of the most valuable resources on Earth, because wherever attention goes, money follows. That is why billion-dollar companies are fighting for seconds of your focus. And most people give it away for free every single day. Think about it. If millions of people look at something, someone is making money from it. Always. Rich people understand this early. That is why they stop thinking like consumers and start thinking like owners. They stop asking, what can I buy? And start asking, what can I build? Because buying makes you temporarily happy. Building changes your life permanently. And this is where most people fail. They want the appearance of wealth without the mindset that creates it. They want expensive watches without discipline, luxury cars without patience, freedom without risk. But wealth has always rewarded people who think differently from the crowd, because the crowd usually reacts emotionally. Rich people try to think strategically. When people panic, they observe. When people chase trends blindly, they analyze who is profiting from the trend, because behind every massive trend, someone is quietly becoming rich, and most people never even notice who it is. Take social media for example. Millions of people dream of becoming influencers, but the people making the biggest money are often not the influencers themselves. It is the platforms, the owners, the investors, the people controlling distribution. That is how rich people think. They look behind the surface of everything, because money usually flows to the layer most people ignore. The average person sees entertainment. A rich person sees a business model. The average person sees a product. A rich person sees supply chains, psychology, and distribution. The average person sees a famous brand. A rich person sees a machine designed to capture human emotion. And once you start thinking like this, the world begins to look completely different. You realize that almost everything around you is competing for your time, your focus, your money, and your habits. And if you never learn to control your attention, someone else will profit from it forever. That is why focus has become a superpower. Most people cannot sit alone for 10 minutes without checking their phone. But the people building massive wealth are often the people capable of focusing for years on one thing. Because attention creates skill. Skill creates value. And value creates money. That is the formula most people ignore. They chase motivation instead of mastery. But rich people become obsessed with leverage. Leverage is the reason one person can reach millions with one video. It is the reason one app can generate billions. It is the reason a small idea can turn into an empire. The internet changed the rules forever. For the first time in history, ordinary people gained access to tools that once only governments and giant corporations had. A phone can now become a business. An idea can become a brand. One video can change someone's life completely. But most people still use technology only for entertainment, while others use the same technology to build freedom. That difference becomes enormous over time, because every day you are either building your future or feeding someone else's system. And rich people understand this deeply. That is why they protect their time aggressively. They know distractions are expensive. Every hour wasted matters, because time is the one thing even billionaires cannot buy back. That is why wealthy people often think long-term, while everyone else thinks short-term. Most people ask, what feels good right now? Rich people ask. What creates freedom 5 years from now? That single shift changes everything, because short-term thinking creates temporary pleasure. Long-term thinking creates power. And power is what rich people actually want. Not just money. Money is only the tool. The real goal is control over life. The ability to wake up without panic. The ability to say no. The ability to choose where to live, who to work with, and how to spend time. That is real wealth. And most people sacrifice that freedom for appearances. They buy things to impress people who do not even care about them. They trap themselves in lifestyles they secretly cannot afford. And then they spend years stressed, exhausted, and dependent. Rich people avoid this trap because they understand something important. Looking rich and being rich are completely different things. Someone wearing designer clothes might be drowning in debt. Someone driving an old car might secretly own millions in assets, because real wealth is often invisible. And the people who truly understand money usually move quietly. They think differently. They study patterns. They learn constantly. Because the biggest advantage in the modern world is not information anymore. Information is everywhere. The real advantage is understanding what actually matters. Most people are overloaded with noise. Rich people search for signals. They look for shifts before everyone else notices. That is why some people become wealthy during massive changes in technology, media, or culture. They move early while everyone else is distracted. And maybe that is the biggest lesson of all. Wealth is not created by accident. It is usually built by people who see the world differently from the average person. People who are willing to think independently. People who can delay pleasure. People who can focus while others are distracted. People who understand that money follows value and value follows attention. Because at the end of the day, the richest people are often not the strongest people or the luckiest people. They are the people who understood the game earlier than everyone else.